Need some quick and easy holiday decor? Well, I have a project for you. All you really need for this project is some glue, a paper pad, either 6 inches by 6 inches or 12 by 12, and some blanks from the dollar store. Michael's and JoAnn's carry these paper pads, and sometimes you can get them 50 or 60% off. You can also get them on Amazon and other places as well. These paper pads are great because you can pick them out to match your home decor and your personality. When picking out a paper pad, look for one that has a variety of pages, some that have tags, some that have 6-inch designs, and some with just a variety of things for you to use in this project. If you're a regular crafter, you may already have a paper pad that you can use for this project. I'm going to start by using this 6-inch picture of a snowman. You will need a 6-inch square picture frame, and I got these from the dollar store. It really doesn't matter what is in the frame. We're going to cover that up. You just need a frame that you like, and I liked these. They were kind of plain. If your paper pack doesn't have a picture of a snowman, you can just take off the back of one of these frames and put in any 6-inch by 6-inch picture out of your paper pack that you like. This project is really that easy. Right there you have something to decorate your house with. If you have the snowman pick, you can put the snowman pick in the frame. We're going to take this a little further and give our snowman a hat. To make a hat from him, you're going to need a paint stir stick, and we're going to cut that stick so that it's a little longer than 6 inches. So it's just a little longer, and that's up to you. And then you need a block of wood that's about the thickness of your frame. It doesn't have to be an exact size, whatever you think would look good on this snowman. Mine is a little less than 6 inches, as you can see, and it's probably about 4 inches tall. If your wood is a little rough, you'll want to give it a light sanding. I got some sandpaper from the Dollar Tree. It's in mixed grit, so you can just use what you think is appropriate to sand your wood if it needs to be sanded. I'm going to paint my snowman's hat black, and then I'm going to come back later and dry brush it with a little bit of gray. I'm going to leave the frame the color that it is because it matches my snowman, I think. So if you want to, you can paint your frame as well. If you decide to paint your frame, I would just recommend giving it a light sand so that it holds the paint. We are going to paint the top and the edges of our wood for this snowman's hat. Black paint has dried. We're going to come in with a little gray paint and do some dry brushing. When our paint is dry, we're ready to assemble our snowman. We're just going to need a little glue for this, and we're going to use it sparingly. We can put our picture in our frame. I glued his hat together with some E6000 and some hot glue. I wasn't sure what the picture frame was made out of, so I decided to use E6000 on this. You can see in this video, the piece of wood I'm using right here is not cut great. It was a scrap piece of wood that I found and I'm using for this project. But once I glue the rim on his hat, you won't be able to see that there's a little uneven part in the wood. I'm now getting ready to glue the rim on the snowman's hat, and I want to make sure that I don't get any glue on the very ends of the piece of wood because they're going to be hanging over the picture frame. Here I wanted to dress up his hat a little bit, so I had a couple floral picks from the Dollar Tree. One alone was too big for his hat, I thought, so I actually cut two apart and put the pieces back together the way I wanted them on his hat. After a little more fooling around with foliage, I think I finally got him where I want him, and I'm considering him done. So if you want to go real easy, you can just pick a 6-inch square picture out of one of your paper packs and put them in a Dollar Tree picture frame. Dollar Tree has a lot of these 6x6 frames. For this picture frame, I sanded it down a little and then I went over it with some acrylic paint. The acrylic paint that I used didn't seem to stick very well, so I ended up using silver spray paint on top of that, and that seemed to work really well. And then I put a little Mod Podge on it and I put some glitter on it. Project 2 uses round and square blanks from the Dollar Tree. You can use a staple puller, pliers, or just give these a good yank and they'll come right apart. The twine that's on there is not held on very tightly. If you purchase these and the paper is loose on them, you want to peel that off. We want to make a nice surface for gluing other paper down or for painting. So you're going to want to pull off the paper if you can. If not, just rough sand it to make sure that you have a good surface to adhere paper to. I'm going back to my paper pack and I'm going to look for some patterns that I like to put on these blanks. If you don't have a paper pack and you don't want to purchase one, you can still use these blanks with stickers. You can paint on them. You can glue napkins to them. There's a lot of ways that you can decorate these blanks if you choose not to get a paper pack. So here I've picked out a pattern that I like for this blank, and I'm going to glue it to the blank, but first I want to paint the edges. You don't have to paint the edges of your blanks, but if you decide that you do want to have the edges painted, it's a little easier to do it before you glue your paper down. That way you don't accidentally paint your paper. Once your blank has dried, you can go ahead and glue the paper to the blank, and I'm just using Mod Podge, and I want to put a thin, even coat. I don't like to make it too messy because it oozes out the sides. You just want to make sure all of the blank is covered with a smooth, even layer. So here I'm putting a piece of paper onto the blank, and I'm just going to smooth it out, make sure it's well stuck, make sure it goes to the edges, and flatten it out. And then I'm going to let this dry. Once your paper has dried, you're going to want to get the extra bits off that you don't need. And I think the easiest way to do it is just to sand it off. It comes off really nicely and there's not a chance of it tearing. You can use scissors or an X-Acto knife, but the sanding seems to work really well. I'm going to be jumping around a little bit in this video. I've done several round blanks and I've done several square blanks. They're all basically the same with the blank. You either paint them or don't paint them, and then you glue your paper to them, or you can paint or decorate one side of them. You could even paint two sides of them if you wanted to and use them for two different holidays. Using your paper pack, you might find out that you can't get like all of one thing on one of these blanks without getting another object. Like here I got the baby seal, but I also got part of a whale. That's okay. You can always figure out a way later to cover it with something. Put some kind of little notion there, a button or a ribbon or something, a sticker that you can hide that extra thing that you didn't want. So for our next project, we're going to talk about embellishments. You might end up with some paper from your paper pack that's a little on the plain side, and that's fine because you can always add a little embellishment to take it over the top and make it really nice. For this plain blue one, I'm going to add this deer kind of snowflake, and for my other blanks, I have some things that I've collected that I'm going to put on top of them. I got these wood shapes at Michael's and JoAnn Fabrics. You can get them on sale, normally about half price. And they're really nice because the dollar store or the Dollar Tree does sell these, and the Dollar Tree has like 5 to a pack or 6 to a pack. But these are much thicker, the ones that you get at Michael's or JoAnn's. They're probably 3 times as thick as the ones you get from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint my deer snowflake with just some apple barrel white paint, and then I'm going to go back and put Mod Podge on it and put some glitter on it. Once the white paint dried, I went back and I put a very thin coat of Mod Podge all over the deer and the snowflake, and then I sprinkled on some white glitter. I really liked how this turned out. I really like this glitter. It's extra fine, and I got it at Michael's. It just really worked out well. You know, it ended up all over my face and my hands, but it really made some pretty ornaments. For this one here with the deer on it, I wanted to jazz it up a little bit, so I had some wooden snowflakes, and I'm going to end up painting them a light blue, and then I'm going to use that same glitter that I used in the previous ornament. For this project, we're just going to use a wood shape that I got from JoAnn Fabrics. They were on sale, they were really cheap. And when you get something like this that's plain, even from the Dollar Tree, you don't think you have to be an artist to decorate them. You could always use paper, printed paper to spruce them up, and they're a really quick little project. In this video, this part of the video, I'm going to go through this really quickly because it's kind of more of the same of what we've already done. But it's a great way to do a quick craft, if you only have a few minutes, is to get one of these pre-cut shapes and just cover them with a combination of paint and paper. Here I'm painting the bow because I just think it'd be too hard to cut out a piece of paper, or take too long to cut out a piece of paper to fit that. So I'm just going to paint the bow on. And then I end up painting right along the edge of the paper because I don't want the wood to show through, or there to be like a white line there when I put the next piece of paper down. So you'll see me painting along the line of the paper. I'm going to give this a little sanding like I've done in some of the other blanks in this video, just to make it look better and to get off any pieces of paper that might be hanging over the edge. Here I'm putting down some Mod Podge because I'm going to glue a strip of paper to the top of the box. Although I didn't show it here, I do go back and sand the box one more time, sand off the little strip that I put for the top of the box, and make it all smooth when I'm finished. Here I'm gluing the word Noel down. It came in the paper pack that I had, so I'm just putting that down. And then I do go back and change the top of the box because I like this paper better. For this project, I'm going to use this shape that I found at the Dollar Tree. It was a little house, and it had a little hinge and was connected to this wood square. I'm actually going to cut the wood square into 4 squares, and I'm going to use them kind of like as little mini ornaments. I marked this block up so that I could take it to the saw. I have a little compound miter saw, and I just cut it up into 4 pretty much relatively equal squares. For the house shape, I went back to my little paper pack and picked out a gold piece of paper that I liked for this shape. I cleaned up the house the best I could. I pulled off the paper that was easy to pull off, and I sanded it down till it was smoothed. Now I'm just going to put some Mod Podge on it and attach my paper. Once the paper was dry, I did trim it up with a pair of scissors before I started sanding it because it was just too much paper there. But I sanded this down and got off the rough edges. And I used an X-Acto knife to get out some of the little areas like in where the chimney is. I really couldn't get in there very well with a piece of sandpaper. So just trimmed it out a little bit, and then I did try to get an emery board in there. For the 4 squares that I cut, I went back to my paper pack and I was able to find some pictures in there that were almost exactly the same size. So they're probably about 2 inch by 2 inch. I followed the same procedures for these. I sanded them down, cleaned them up. I filled in the little holes where the hinge used to be, and I got them ready for decoupage or gluing the paper down. I also found these. They came right out of one of my paper packs, and they're just the perfect size for these little blocks that I cut, and they're just so stinking cute. For these little minis, I'm just going to continue on. I'm just going to glue them down, then I'll wait for the glue to dry, and then I'll sand the edges. And I didn't paint the edges of these blocks. I kind of like the brown color with this red and green printed paper. It just kind of matches and gives it a little bit of a rustic look. So some of your paper packs will come with paper tags in them, and they're really cute. And I thought about using some of them in this project, but I wanted something a little more durable, so I found some wood tags at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to kind of give them a little bit of a facelift. I went through my paper tags and I picked out paper to make 2 tags, the front and the back of each tag. Each tag from the Dollar Tree came with a little string and a bead, so I took them off so they wouldn't get glue on them, and got the tags ready for gluing some paper on. I gave them a light sanding so the paper would stick well, and then I just used Mod Podge to glue the paper on. Making these little tags, I end up gluing the paper to both sides of the tag one after another without letting the first one dry. And I used some scissors to trim it up just so the paper wouldn't get in the way when I come back and sand them down. Get both sides of the paper glued down, you'll need to make a hole in these tags. I just used a little pin that had a ball on the end of it and I pushed it through the hole. I just was real careful not to rip the paper or pull it apart. Once it's dried, you want to go back and just give the edges of these a quick sanding just to make sure they're smooth. For project number 6, we're going to take some pre-cut wood shapes and turn them into a little sign for our tier tray. I purchased these gnomes at the Dollar Tree and they're very thin, so I'm going to use 2 of them and stack them on top of each other to make one thick gnome. To start this project, you'll need to paint one of your gnomes, the gnome that's going to sit on top, in any color or colors that match the paper that you're using for your other decor in this project. Once you have your gnome painted and dried, we're going to trace the gnome onto a piece of paper because we're going to glue 2 gnomes together, one that's painted, one that's not painted, and we're going to put a piece of paper in the middle of the 2 gnomes so that you can't see through the cutouts. When you rest this on your sign, if you don't put that paper in there, you'll see the sign through the gnome and you'll see blank space where there's no sign. So we're going to trace the gnome out on a piece of paper and then we're going to cut that piece of paper out so that we can actually glue it in between 2 gnomes. Here I have 2 pieces of paper and 2 painted gnomes because I'm going to make 2 signs. I'm going to use the white paper behind the blue gnome and I'm going to use the light green paper behind the red gnome. So here I'm showing you what the paper will look like behind the gnome and what it looks like without the paper behind the gnome. Once you have your paper gnome cut out, you're going to glue it to the back side of your painted gnome. So here my red and green gnome is facing down and I'm going to glue the green paper to the back of that. You want to put glue around all the edges, but you'll want to put a very thin line. You don't want this to squish out or ooze out when you put everything together. So you need to get all the edges with some glue, but put it on very lightly. Once you have your glue down and your paper on top of your glue, you're going to want to check it out and push down, make sure it's stuck real well and that it's situated so it's not sticking over any of the edges. Now we need to glue the unpainted gnome to the back of this paper. Now we have a gnome that is twice as thick and we can't see through the cutouts. Once your gnome is positioned the way you want him and he's pressed together, I would just suggest putting him between a couple of books or putting a heavy object on top of him just to keep him nice and flat while he dries. When your gnome is finished, you're going to want to prepare one of those squares. And I just glued some scrap paper to the squares in the colors that I wanted because we're going to make a little sign. And I've showed you earlier in the video how to do this with the squares that you got from the Dollar Tree. You're just going to decoupage or glue something on there to make the sign, the background for this. And you want it kind of plain because if you put writing on it, if it's too fancy, you won't be able to see it. Once my gnome was dry, I went ahead and applied some puff paint to his beard. I wanted it to have a little bit of texture, and I went over it 2 or 3 times with the puff paint. I let it dry in between each time, but as it sit, it kind of goes flat. So I did have to do 2 or 3 coats of this puff paint to make the beard look really good. Next thing you want to do is prepare some type of writing for the back of your sign. You can put any saying you want here. You can cut out something. You can print it on your printer and cut it out. Here I used my Cricut to cut out the saying. When you put your words on your background square, you just want to make sure that you leave enough room for the gnome, because he's kind of going to be half on, half off the sign, and you'll need to make sure you leave space for him. When your gnome is glued down and dry, you can add more detail to the background if you like. I just added some little dots with puff paint on the pink one, and then on the blue one I added some little dots from puff paint, and I had some vinyl from my Cricut that I cut into snowflakes, and I put them on the background just to add a little more something to it. For this next project, we're going to make snow globes out of some items we got from the Dollar Tree. Start out with, we want to figure out what will actually fit in this little globe. You know, some of the trees, the bigger trees, are too tall. Some items are too fat, so we just have to figure out what we can fit in here. For me, I like the little tree. It fits really well, and I just took off the bottom of it because I thought it took up space, and I'm going to end up sticking all this stuff into some air dry foam clay. So I picked out one of the little figurines. It's a man with a tree. And I just want to make sure that it fits in, and I test it first before I start gluing stuff down. So it looks like it'll all fit fine, so that's what I'm going to use for this snow globe. I wanted to use air dry clay for this project, white air dry clay, but I couldn't find it at any of the Dollar Trees near my house. But I did find this blue stuff. It's called Model Fluff. And they only had it in really bright colors, but I bought it and I decided I would try it out, and I would just paint it white at the end, and it actually worked out really well. So this Model Fluff I'm going to use for the base of my snow globe, and I really did end up liking it. It's like, it dries like foam, and it's really light, which was nice, and it was also easy to shape. The only problem I had with it is I would have rather started with white, because that's going to be my snow in the snow globe. So that was the only thing. It worked out extremely well, and you'll see in the video that I just paint it white and it looks great. For the base of your snow globe, you just want to shape the base so that the lid still fits on. So you're going to need to leave a little space around the edge of this lid so that you can get the top of the snow globe on and screw it on. I just kind of pushed it back. If I thought I was a little wide, I just pushed it back, and then I put the lid on to see if it would work. And this too, like these little pieces stuck right into this Model Fluff without any glue. So they went in and they stayed in really well. Once you have everything the way you want it to be, and you're sure that your modeling clay or your modeling fluff is the right size, you're going to have to take this out of the snow globe, because if you put the lid on, it's not going to dry. So you have to let the modeling clay or this modeling fluff sit out in the air. I left it overnight. It did take a while to dry, but you can definitely tell when it's dry. It gets just a tiny bit lighter, and it gets lighter in color, and it feels like it gets lighter in weight as well. So here I'm going to start a second snow globe, and I'm going to use pretty much the same items. I'm going to use a different figurine and different trees, but for the most part, all the items are the same. So out of these figurines, I want to use the little guy who's skiing, and I'm going to try to make a mountain out of snow, or the mountain out of the modeling fluff. I'm going to use 3 of these green trees, but I'm going to take off the bases because the bases are kind of big to hide in the modeling fluff. Here I'm molding a mountain out of the modeling fluff. And I want to stick the skier in the side of my mountain. I thought it'd be neat if he kind of looks like he's skiing down the mountain, or cross-country skiing or something like that. I have to take the base off of this because that just would be too big to hide, but it easily pries off these plastic figurines. I have the base off the skier, and I'm going to kind of fit him into the side of my mountain. And then I'm going to take my 3 trees and I'm going to put them in the mountain as well. When I'm happy with the placement of the trees and the skier, I'm just going to make sure that it's going to fit in the lid and that the top of this jar can go over top of it without cutting into it. When you're happy with the shape of your clay and your figurines, you're going to want to let this dry, and it probably needs to dry overnight and maybe be rotated after a few hours. I let one of mine sit in the lid, and the bottom of it didn't dry because it was sitting on the plastic lid. So I just sat it on its side and let it dry for a few more hours. Since I was unable to get white modeling clay or white modeling fluff, I had to paint this, and I just used a white paint, acrylic paint, to paint this white. And then later I go back after it's dried and I put a little bit of glue on it, Mod Podge, and I put a little bit of glitter on it, just so it has a little bit of glitter accents on it. Once your paint, glue, and glitter have dried, you can glue these to the lid of your little container. And then I put some fake snow in there just to make it look a little fluffy. I try not to get it too far in the jar because I didn't know if it would be staticky and stick to the sides. So I tried my best not to get it all over the inside of the little globe. So at this point, the only thing left to do is to decorate the lid if you want to do that. I left the lid for the little skier gray because the tier tray that I'm going to put it on is going to be silver and blue. This one here, I have a gold tree in it, so I just painted the lid gold. It would be really nice to put a little ribbon around this if you had it, something thin. I really didn't have any ribbon, so I just painted this lid gold so it would match the tree. For this project, I'm taking a Dollar Tree Christmas ornament and I'm just fancying it up a little bit. I bought this little sleigh and I like it, but I just think it should have something inside of it. So I'm going to put a Santa bag in there with some presents. I removed the foliage that was on the front of this sleigh and I ended up removing the tie to hang it. I removed it because I thought it was a little big and I want my bag of presents to be the main focus. I have a little red plaid bag that I got from the Dollar Tree a while ago and it's too big for this project, so I'm just going to cut some extra off and try to make the bag smaller. When I thought the bag was the right size, I just hot glued it together. This is just a little ornament and I figured the hot glue will hold and it'll be just fine inside the sled. I glued the fabric right sides together and then when I was done and the glue had dried, I turned it right side out. I filled the little bag with presents and then I glued it inside the sled. I glued a present in front of the bag and then I stuck in two small little trees that I got from the Dollar Tree just to fill the sled up so it was nice and full. I just glued a little bit of foliage on the side of the sled to cover the holes that were there. And my sled is pretty much done. For project 9, we're just going to make a little ladder out of popsicle sticks. I used 10 popsicle sticks for this project and I glued them together by twos. I thought one popsicle stick was just a little too thin for a ladder, so I glued them together in sets of twos, so I have 5 sets. After I glued these together, I put them under a couple of books so that they would dry nice and flat. I took 2 of the popsicle stick sets and I cut off the rounded edges so that they would be just flat, squared. They end up measuring about 4 1/4 inches long. For the rungs of my ladder, I cut 4 pieces of popsicle stick that was 1 3/4 of an inch long. Once all my pieces were cut out, I gave them a light sanding. I hot glued the ladder and the rungs together, and I didn't measure in between the rungs. I just kind of eyeballed it. I thought it would be close enough. Once the glue was dried, I gave it a light sanding, a very gentle sanding. After it was all sanded, I came in and painted it with a coat of white paint. Once the white paint was dry, I came in with a little gray paint and I just gave it a little bit of dry brushing. Once my paint was dry, I wanted to decorate this ladder somehow. I thought about putting different things on it like a Christmas wreath or some garland or something, but I decided I wanted to make a little quilt to go on this. And I just took a piece of fabric. It was about a 5-inch square, and I kind of folded it into thirds and then I folded it into half to go over one of the rungs in the ladder. When you get the fabric arranged the way you want it arranged, you'll want to glue it to the ladder. I used hot glue to do this, and I started with the back of the ladder to get a really good secure grip, and I used less glue on the front because I wanted it to look nice. If you've stuck around to the end, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Happy holidays. Thanks for watching.